We'll pick us both up. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for continuing to watch the Debate Day event of the century. Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, man, that light is so bright. But so we were just talking about how Trump, I guess, apparently decided to make everything 21 and up.
The whole like tobacco and lottos, like I don't understand the lotto thing. I'm like, what's going on? Like, come on, now I can't even gamble for another year. Like, I'm 22, so I'm
you're
fine.
20. Okay, yeah, but
that's completely over.
I feel like that's fucked up. Anytime that you like change the year on something, you know that some kid was fucking waiting to be able to go buy a cigar and hang out and shit with his friends and be like, hey, I'm 18, cool, look at all the stuff I can do. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Like, can they go to strip clubs? Are they not allowed to go to strip clubs?
I have no idea. We have to look on the bill.
Yeah,
I haven't read the full bill. I ended up seeing the thing. They pronounced it, and then my friend went. She just turned 18. Went to Tampa. She was trying to go get herself a lotto ticket, and they said, "Oh, you have to be 21." And she was like, "That's so mean. What? Wow. When did this happen?" And apparently, it was signed in. I think a month or two ago.
Right.
But that's insane. I'm like, I wonder, because like my whole thing was, if you can hold a gun and go into the service, you should be able to drink a beer. You should be able to have some tobacco. I'm like, come on, PTSD, man. PTSD,
man. You're 18, dude. Like, exactly. You deserve it. You're an adult. Like, what? Why do we even like specify that as being an adult?
I'm like, if I had to say something, I'm like, I could understand for tobacco, like for the growing body and stuff like that. I would rather have kids like smoke when their body's done growing. Instead of stunting their growth. I'm like, we have smaller people now. People used to be taller.
We have smaller people.
I'm like, have you seen these women out here? They're like 5'4". That's small.
That's funny.
4 or 5.
But yeah, we were just talking about that. It's funny. So you are a Trump supporter, correct?
I wouldn't. Half and half. I'm like, you gotta understand, when you say Trump supporter, it depends on the people. The people could either take that as you believe in everything he says, or you have common sense to not like what he has to do.
How you see how you can believe everything he's. I mean, he's twittering like
surprised,
a maniac, and says a lot of untrue things that are completely obvious. But.
Exactly. Like, you gotta understand, there's certain things that we can see through just media that could abstract our view from what's actually going on. And there's also the fact of how things could look just from looking at it without any dialogue at all, you know?
Right.
Like, actions do speak louder than words, but you can also, as like they show on like YouTube, you see those football videos where they misinterpret all their words on the football shows and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So like they'll like say different words and stuff. So you could really take someone's actions, put words behind it, and make it mean something completely different based off of the whole thing.
Right.
I'm like, and those things are so much of a like we're so corrupted in our media for those things just to get the next piece, because either they want to like please their editor or please the people on their party or whatever, you know. And it's just not a good source, because like.
People they're trying to get people like inflamed a lot of time. Like I mean, both sides do this as far as media goes, which I clearly do not think both sides are equal in any way, except for maybe this. They will sometimes try to be inflammatory with what they report on and report on it in such a way that would piss you off more than what the actual story means. But just saying.
I like what Kyle had to say. That BS. Make choices for your body. Okay, let's put it like this.
So here, let me read it real quick. How BS that you can't make the choice to put something in your body, yet you can make the choice to elect the officials telling you what you can and can't do. We are becoming complacent with our oppressors.
That's funny. I'm like, you gotta also understand in these perspectives. I'm like, we vote in these what you would call oppressors. I would call more of our government more of the suppressors. They suppress a lot of what we say and what we do. It does vice versa based off of party, because each party has, from my perspective, their own plan. I do believe each party has their good and evils, but I do believe that the extreme on both sides are overcoming in this day and age.
Oh,
But like there's certain things that should be told on what to do and how to do them based off of the outlook of what's actually good in overall humanity. I'm like, for me, I believe in a certain belief that's not like in any religion, but in my certain belief, it would actually show that there is actual significance to value your life and what you do in it and what makes you actually who you are and makes you a better person around the people you are instead of the people around you that aren't doing so well turn you into them. You
so do you think there's like a particular let's say like you're a Christian, right? Or no, you're not necessarily a Christian, right?
No.
You're kind of a
I don't
cross
put a
between
place
Judaism and
Christianity. It's a Judeo-Christian value set mixed with Judaism, but the hardest part is you have to define it based off of not what the humans of Judaism and the Christian Judeo system or Catholics so-called have made it to be. You have to break it down from what they've changed everything into to what has been written and has never been changed. I have found that only the first 5 books of the Bible have never been changed or messed with in any sort of frame, verse, or anything besides interpretations in the biblical teachings of English from Hebrew and stuff like that.
From Hebrew to
English. But I can understand that anybody could have a mess up. I'm like, if from what I've learned in a lot of the Hebrew language, it's pretty difficult to try to get everything put together. You learn phrases first before you actually get down to the alphabet.
Yeah, well, there's only 200 words in the Hebrew.
Exactly.
Dictionary. I mean, it's very limited.
Exactly. I'm like, Rosetta Stone was very helpful.
Yeah, it makes it kind of difficult. And you'd want to. I mean, I feel like if you're only working with those many words, you should try to make it as clear as possible.
Well, you got to also understand when those words were fabricated, words were more simpler. We've made words more into a diverse culture. It was mainly introduced from America making fads and becoming the natural leader of the world's evolution into our age of electronics and stuff. We're all about fads. Every fad is there in a year. I'm like, there's a certain way for life to be lived that makes it more simpler for you and it's healthier for the people around you.
Okay, so would you say that the one ideology, or that if you're, okay, let's call it Judeo-Christian values, do you think that it's okay for a government system to implement Judeo-Christian values and make it to where if you aren't living by those values, that your life is going to be significantly harder?
Technically, your religion shouldn't be part of a government. It should only be passive through you and the people that believe alongside you. If you're of a place that is of a Christian place, I'm like, you can become very hostile to lead yourself to be perceptive as evil and become what you're not supposed to be. To create your own conflict, especially in this world, is to do that of what you are stopping other people to do. Like if a gay person came across your town, you'd have to either be, well, normally if you're living right, you'd be passive, but with Judeo-Christian values, they'll most likely be mean to those people. And it's those things that can happen that lead you down astray. And the thing is, they can't check themselves because of what the humans have interpreted and made into their own ideology. Judeo-Christian values take a hold of a lot of the New Testament, saying the Old Testament is obsolete, which is not correct.
So, right. Okay, so you reject the part, I think it's in Timothy, or one of the Timothys. Mm-hmm. I don't know, there's a bunch of those.
A lot of that in Paul's teachings. Paul's teachings really, really mess with a lot of things. You gotta understand, if anything in the New Testament does not confirm the Old Testament, then it should not be part of the Bible itself. I'm like, the Old Testament was the only thing that was there at that time for the New Testament being so-called written. So therefore, there was only one testament to be living through. And the New Testament doesn't really tell you how to live. It just points you back to what the Old Testament told you how to live.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. So like, if you live that sort of way, there's that life fluency that I would see where you'll live more of a better life, not for just yourself, but for the people around you, even though the world may be different than you.
Right. Okay. So and understanding that other people with other ideologies like can live their lives and still have access to the same resources and everything in the in that spectrum, that should be right. Or you're saying okay. All right. So let's go back. Let's go back to some basics. So you are because you talk about this light fluency thing, and I we've had this conversation a couple times. I'm still having a bit of trouble kind of like nailing down exactly, because a lot of times I categorize arguments in the way that they've been categorized since the beginning of time, which is in the different. I mean, we've had these conversations so many times that we've basically applied names to the different arguments so that we can save time. You know what I mean? In an argument, that's the transcendental argument, or that's the ontological argument, or what and so it seems like a lot of the light fluency light fluency argument is more like, it seems like it's very much part of the what is it?
Buddhists
teleological, where the Buddhists
do it a lot.
Really?
A lot of the ways, like
it's almost like the Force.
Well, like let's put it like in do it more like Star Wars things. Okay, if you want to do it in the Star Wars themes, if you look at the Force would flow through everything, just like the spiritual binding of all of us. God has our own spirits, and we're all spiritual based off of what He has ordained into us, I guess, from birth. It's we all have that feeling in us, a gut feeling, the Irish luck hairs, like you gotta understand, we all have that feeling, the feeling of getting up, the feeling of yawning, there's a feeling there. So what drove that feeling? You can't just say someone wound you up and that's how you're instantly always going to feel that way. You can't just say that there's that just because there's nothing that means that's nothing. Like at first we didn't know that air existed until we were able to see tiny things.
Sure.
I'm like, there's so many things that like emptiness really, really helps, there's this one book that I read earlier that I was telling you about, from the Tai and Tao. They had this one verse that said, mold clay into a bowl. The empty space makes it useful. Cut out doors and windows for a house. The holes make it useful. Mm. Do you see what that's trying to preach out?
I mean, I need to know a bit more of the context, like based on what you're just saying. Like,
so pretty much, from that point of view, it'd be showing that even though that nothing is in that space, does not mean that it's not being useful in what's there.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
And how does that relate, would you say, to faith and things like that?
Well, I would say more, because if you can only provide so much proof until you have to put it into belief. So therefore your proof is there is a bowl. There is clay to make that bowl. But the belief is what's the empty space in the middle that is useful.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think I see what you're saying, and that you can put anything in a bowl, and therefore that space.
Technically, yeah, but you gotta also understand what in that space should be put there. What should make it useful? What is useful? How do you figure out if you're gonna believe in the right system or not? There's way too many things out there that can confuse you. Yes, but it's easy to follow through when you actually see how you're supposed to be based off of your own view. If history repeats itself, then you're literally living your own history.
I'm glad you said based on your own view, because I was like, a lot of times I'm like, when you say, oh, but it's supposed to be like this, and I'm like, based on what? Your ideology or in your religion?
Well, not everybody's going to be driven the same way. I'm like, obviously I feel different to where you don't understand how I feel, to where I have to explain it, right? So therefore you won't understand. That's why no one knows me. No one's ever heard this kind of a message before. No one will probably ever hear it again besides re-listening to this.
Right.
But the point is
maybe
only
you'll start a revolution.
I don't know. Well, if I'm correct, based off of what the biblical sayings say, I will never be heard based off of what I'm saying.
Really?
My teachings, my saying would fall on deaf ears. No one would care what I say. No one would even think about it twice. There'd probably be one or two people that would find it interesting to where they would start looking up some of the facts themselves and they'd be like, that's more interesting, and then actually be willing to try that lifestyle to where it would be healthier for them and then see the difference.
Wow.
But you got to understand, when you live a different lifestyle, it's completely...
So just dive in, start living according to it.
Well, what you can't judge a book by its cover, right? So then,
Sure.
if you're saying, okay, I don't believe in God, well, why? Have you even tried? Have you ever even seen what it's like to be that kind of a person? Have you not? Would it be more joyful to be more fulfilled than to have to always fill your void with either alcohol, drugs, or people around you?
Right. No, I mean, and I would ask is the belief a necessary aspect? Because we can't choose our beliefs. We're convinced by a certain. No,
I believe you can choose.
You can choose what you believe. So if you stood on top of a building, and looked over, and were like, if I step off of this, I'm not going to fall. You could believe that.
Anyone can believe that technically, yeah. But the thing is it logical to believe in that? That's the point. You can believe in anything you want as long as it calls to your own logic.
Okay.
So meaning if I was dumb and illiterate and to the point of not understanding what would happen, yeah, I could believe that.
Sure.
Therefore,
you're
only compelled by logic to believe in certain manners.
The reason that analogy is so good is because it's based on evidence. So even though there's evidence, to the contrary, that you're up on a high building and you can, that anybody who's done this in the past has fallen and died, and you have this information, being able to alter that based on the evidence that you see, you're going against what the evidence says, and yet you're supposed to believe it. And I think that's why that analogy is so helpful to this conversation. Okay. Do you see what I'm saying? So like the evidence tends to lean towards no God. I mean, really, I mean, it's until one is presented to be the cause of things.
So let me guess. How do you prove nothing exists?
How do you prove nothing exists? That's why you don't prove a negative.
So therefore, you cannot prove God does not exist. Because you do not have proof that He is there.
Because you don't prove a negative. I mean, that's so. Like, can you prove that invisible leprechauns don't exist?
Well, it would be the exact same question. How could your science prove, therefore, He is not there? If you can't even...
It wouldn't be up to them to prove that He's not there. It'd be up to you to prove that He is.
But do you see how you're trying to flip the script where no one has to do the work? That's the point. We're contrary on to belief. And yeah, we can make the claim to where it's a bigger understanding, but the proof would lie in the actions of what you do to see how it would work out. I'm like, you gotta understand, nature flows on its own course and cycles, so do we.
Right. But I mean, Muslims live according to their book and stuff. Does that mean that their God is correct? That they're right about believing that their God is true?
Well, of course, in my term, I wouldn't think so. But you got to understand, people are not all meant to be on the same side. We're all meant to be diverse in culture. Hence the story of Babylon.
Okay.
The Babylonian culture, how everyone's separated of words and all that.
So that means
He separated our languages, so we would be against each other. We would not try to.
God wanted us to be divided.
Well, we had to be divided because once we actually, what happens when you become a great nation? You gain great power. What happens when you become great power? You become Russia and the USSR. But I'm just saying, there's so much power that could happen. Okay, there's so many things. You're messing with our elections. You're doing all these certain things. Your power becomes corruptive. That's what happens with power, and that's why when you live more of a fluency life, you don't have the power to be corrupted. You just have the fulfillment, which feels like the power that you were wanting.
So, okay. So what you feel like? So what would be the best? If you were to determine why what you're saying is true, what would be the evidence that you would point to say that this is why what I believe is more true than what the Muslims believe, or the Mormons, or the Scientologists, or anything like that?
Well, first you'd have to break down. Let's see how. For me, I believe solely in the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah. You read the actions based off of the people and what they're called to be doing. The actions of how they behave. Does it still apply today? Because actions never go away based off of generations of differences. everyone will have the same incident, no matter who you are or where you are.
Mm.
So, therefore, if the actions still apply today to where people are going to fall into misled understandings and high rises and tear down cities and all this certain stuff, like, it will show how people should live and how they're not going to do it in the Bible versus the Quran, where it shows more of, I wouldn't even know how to put that in. I can't even really say, because I don't know enough more of the Quran to put it into that kind of analogy for stuff.
Wouldn't that be important? I mean,
I'm like, it would be more important, but you got to understand, when it comes to the Quran's understanding, it's intertwined with what the Bible says within a mixture of differences on a different point of view. That's the problem.
So it's a different point of view of the same 5 books.
The thing is the only thing it misunderstands is where it actually came from versus one. The Bible actually tells you where it starts. The Bible tells you how the Quran started. Yeah. The Quran does not tell you how the Bible started.
Right. Well, the Quran was written after, quite a ways.
Well, exactly. But that's what I'm trying to say. For most people that don't know, Abraham had a son of Ishmael from his servant, and that was not supposed to be the chosen son, because he was supposed to have one with his wife. Right. But because it was his firstborn still had the properties of being the firstborn, meaning you'll still get land and people and a civilization. And he even said Ishmael would become a great many people.
Yeah,
and that it would be the Muslim nation.
Is the firstborn thing, right?
That's the point. That's why it's like, in the point, God did not deny him his firstborn right. But because of that, it doomed the world to its own extinction.
Yeah, and I remember, talking about this and having your same stance on it is that, and in the Quran, it's weird too, y'all, because like the story of the sacrifice of Isaac is opposite. It's the sacrifice of Ishmael, and he took him up to, I want to read Kyle's comment in just a second, but he took Ishmael up to the mountain and then was about to sacrifice him and then didn't because a ram showed up. Which if you read that story as if there's no God character, it's just a crazy person about to kill his kid. But anyway, but let's read it. Kyle's comment real quick here. It says, okay, so let me read it. Generally speaking, feelings themselves are driven through environmental pressures. Emotions are tools used to inform the senses and prolong the observer's existence. Instinctual in a very fundamental way, having an appreciation for one's existence is necessary biochemical.
Okay.
I feel like I need to read that again. You're a smart dude, Kyle.
Let's put like this, Kyle. Like, your emotions can drive a lot, but here would be my question to you. Does your emotions interpret your logic? Because emotions without your emotions being identified appropriately, your emotions can lead you astray from what's morally right to do.
So, okay. So, I mean, so I guess he's saying that emotions are tools used to inform the series of, and it's based off of things that happen in society, and those environmental pressures are what cause you to have these emotions.
Yeah, and so therefore you would be going off of either impulses of how it makes you feel, when normally when you feel something right away, it's usually instinctually what you're going to put out. But if you don't, and you sit back and you see what's actually going on, 9 times out of 10, you'll have a better understanding of what to put out. I'm like, if someone slapped my fiance who's pregnant right now, I would instantly be mad and want to beat the crap out of the person, right? Okay, so that's the wrong thing to do. That you don't do that in that sort of situation.
Right.
So if you sit back for a second, make sure she's okay, and then deal with the situation appropriately, he will get what actually is deserving to come to him. That's just...
But you just let it go and you figure God will get him eventually?
Well, it's not even just that point. The point is you're supposed to not You put fire with fire, all it is fire. You see what I'm saying? If he throws fire and you throw a fucking blanket of water and snow on it, it's just gonna be like,
yeah. It'll beat it.
No, I'm like,
it's like a rock paper scissors thing.
It's hard, bro, because like.
Except I don't get the scissors in the rock thing, or the paper in the rock thing. I don't. Never mind. The whole thing is fucked. I don't. I don't get it.
It's hard to understand, but there's a lot of things that come to morality and logic. Logic and morality have been defined based off of what other men have created, which men and naturally, I wouldn't say just men. I just mean men as in humankind, but naturally is incorrect based off of us trying to find something that we're not meant to find. So, like, has anybody seen a video where you're watching this guy and he's like looking for notes that his wife leaves around his house, and then the last note says, "Fuck you."
or send him on a scavenger hunt just to fuck him up, like.
Yeah, just to say "fuck you." So let's put it like this: so God would have you on a scavenger hunt to realize. You're not going to find out who you are until it's already the time to be over. You're not going to figure out the actual truth to your existence until what I guess what Revelations would say Jesus would come back. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to understand based off of that ideology because our minds want to know. But if you understand from the Adam and Eve example, that is the tree of good and knowledge of good and evil. The knowledge of good and evil is trying to know. Why are we here? Are we here to be good? Are we here to be evil? And that knowledge is what drives you to your own extinction.
But I mean,
because all that does is
like, and then we got to determine whether or not we should be good or.
That's still
like the word
because
evil,
that's
harmful.
still well, harmful is evil, dude.
I mean, I would say that's what I was. That's my word.
But you gotta understand, like when you eat from the tree of good and the knowledge of good and evil, that would have to ordain on you to make your decision on whether to be a bad person or a good person based off of the influences that happen to you next. Whatever you're perceiving right now, dude, you could hit me right now just because you just didn't like what I said. But are you going to do it? No, because you want to be a good person and you want a good show, I guess. But like, then again, we could have a brawl and then that could be a blast too. Woo! But yeah.
Okay, but could we base morality more off of an understanding of an evaluation of consequences of our actions with respect to the goal being the best well-being for the most amount of people? Couldn't that take the place?
Well, no, because for the most amount of people, you gotta understand. With the most amount of people, you gotta understand having your feelings intertwined with who needs to go and how things need to be is the unlogical thing to do. That's him.
Well, shoot. Okay,
yeah.
Hold on.
Sorry,
y'all. Keep talking. You're good. Yeah, of course. Of course.
Sorry, fiance, y'all.
It's all the way in the back, the last room in this little hallway of rooms.
That door actually
that actually makes it look better.
Wow, okay.
So
right. Yeah, I'm like, when you think of morality, you gotta understand morality, I would say, is best shown through the Torah, which is understood. I'm like, it's hard to understand, I guess. But the understanding is having the belief and the will to understand that it is good overall of what you know. Because the main point of what you've already known now is what's going to take you away from it, which it also tells you in there that your influences will drive you away from what is good in the world. And that's one of the hardest things, because even now that you're not being born into this and understanding it off rip, now you're going to be sitting here struggling to actually complete your mission, because now you have the truth, but the thing is, can you actually do it by separating yourself from someone you love because that person is being a detriment to not just her own health, your health as well? You know, I'm like, it's hard to just base that off of your own humanity when you always got to help a person out.
So you're saying like somebody is clearly taking advantage of you, or and
the thing is sometimes a person can't be clearly taking advantage of you. I have a person in my life that keeps doing so many things that things just end up happening. And there's nothing that she can do or I can do. And now I'm stuck in the predicament of watching it come in clash to where either she's gone and I will never see her again, or I eventually something happens. But the thing is what she does on the off time, how does it happen to her? What actions is she taking? From what I'm seeing, is not very much, and it's never good enough. And I don't understand.
It's not good enough. Like she's doing
like this. This wouldn't be her, but to identify what it would mean would be like, here you got your paycheck, you need to pay your bills, but instead you just bought beer and cigarettes and kept your money for beer and cigarettes for the rest of the month instead of paying your bills. That shit's
important, okay? That's practically a fucking bill. No,
but you gotta understand, like,
no, I get
morally,
what
people have that struggle versus cigarettes or that money going on the electric bill to make it a full electric bill payment. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People will struggle with that, and she is definitely one of them. But she keeps being behind in her bills because she's trying to pay for other things, which should not be the important stuff, which makes it harder on her in the long run. And because her instant gratification is there, it takes everything away from her.
Do you think that, by basing it off of well-being, do you think that still does not violate my sense of morality by centering well-being as the center?
Well, it would depend, because you gotta understand, you can still be a good person and not believe. The point of believing is it's like a different level of being good, because there's still feeling of you being good, but you have your selfishness, your ambitions, your lustfulness, your expression for knowledge, I guess. You know?
Right. Well, I mean, you're still going to make mistakes, and you're still going to do things that are going to harm somebody else's well-being without, sometimes without realizing it, or trying to do the right thing and it ends up going wrong. Yeah, that sort of thing's going to happen. But if the best well-being for the most amount of people is your goal, then the
goal would be such a selfish thing. So how would that be the well-being if it's self?
How could that be? Like a selfish,
because it's your goal. It's not based off of what other people are thinking of. Your goal can't be technically your goal. You'd have to just let it go through. You need to not worry about yourself and worry about what's going on around you, but how yourself can go on, like how stuff around you goes on around. I don't know how to pronounce it. Forgive me for my words, but trying to put it into words is kind of difficult for me, being dyslexic, So when you're...
No clue, Amy. No clue. We have no idea what we're debating right now. We're just talking.
It was Star Wars.
I don't know. Like, we've gone from...
But when it comes down to the whole...
I guess why his version of morality is better than mine.
Oh, that I could...
Go with that.
But I wouldn't say mine would be better than yours, because I would still be saying instinctually I'm being more self-absorbed than that. You see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to say I'm being self-absorbed into my ideology, but more based off of how can I encourage you to see a bit more.
How can you encourage me to see a bit more? Like what? Like meaning behind the morality?
Not just the meaning behind it, but like what makes you do it in the first place? What helps it?
Here's some other noise going on. Oh, anyway, we could. I'm sorry. Oh, you got headphones in.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. All right.
Oh,
no, that's all right. Yeah, it's like mild, but it's a crazy microphone that picks up everything. Sorry about that. It's a little bit, and it won't be good.
Yeah.
Thanks, sorry.
So, all right. So let's take it back more for the life fluidity thing. Okay. So with life fluidity, there is a morality to the way you live your life. The morality would be defined in the secret understanding based off of the Torah itself. But the secret understanding is meant for only a few that can, I guess, are truly wanting to be open and want to see what's actually there. Okay. If you're going into it being like, okay, I don't believe in this, I already know it's not going to be true, but I'm just going to go into it.
Yeah,
you're instantly already shutting it down. And even if the thing is you're not supposed to subconsciously or consciously shut it down in order to understand it. Therefore, it will be hard to where it's like converting from being a Muslim into a Christian. See what I'm saying?
And telling the Muslim, hey, just be a Christian for a couple days.
It would be hard. It's supposed to be that hard,
and then experience it, and then you'll totally want it. It's like fake it till you make it kind of thing.
I'm like, I wouldn't say fake it, but it would be more like He would see if you're trying, because that would be the just part, is you trying and having your heart actually be open to that, which will allow you to be accepted. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like almost like working out a muscle.
Why is it secret? Why is this thing secret? I don't understand that.
Because the world but the world itself does not want you to. People in your selfishness does not want you to know that there's a way to live that actually takes away what you want to actually do. You want to actually go see big booty bitches out on the strip club. You actually want to go do them drugs. You actually want to get drunk and party, you know. But the thing is, there's good ways of doing that. There's responsible ways of having parties. People do it all the time. I get lit every Saturday night, and guess what? I'm still responsible enough to drive the fuck home, okay? It's not that hard. You can still be lit and still be able to drive home responsibly without being stupid, drunk, and intoxicated. Right. It's people got to understand there's a responsibility to your actions that will hurt others, because being out in the open in public, your actions will bounce off of other people.
Sure. Yeah, and that's my whole shtick, is that, you know, us in a society, like, we have to function in a way that doesn't harm each other. Like, and then if we have an ideology that props up one group of people over another, you know, it's where this group of people is allowed to limit this group of people's rights, and gets to kick them out of their shop or whatever, tell them, hey, religious freedom, I'm allowed to kick you out. Yeah. Because I don't agree, you know, that's a problem, and that's sort of where I think when it comes to secular morality, we're actually including all of the ideologies, and then we're outside of all the ideologies playing referee and saying, hey, you know, you guys don't get to do that to them, okay, and they don't get to do that to you. And I would never want anybody with a gay cake shop to kick a Christian out either. You know what I mean? I don't think I'd be against that just as much as I'd be against the opposite.
Yeah, being passive is a lot of the way to go, but you got to also understand you got to be firm in who you are and not let people change you for who you are. Because the influences are around that can change you to who you are. If you, from a perspective, God in the Old Testament says it's an abomination to be gay, still, that's Old Testament. So the problem would be is, even if you had that feeling, the point is not to put you in a predicament to where you'll end up that way.
I mean, it's still in Romans in the New Testament as well.
Well, exactly, but that's what I said. The New Testament just points to the New Testament. It's harder in that factor, but the thing is when life makes everything sexual, it's always going to turn you into
your anatomy makes everything sexual, but
yes, technically yes, that's part of life. That's part of life, but. When society makes it all about being sexual, what if being gay was not just about the whole sexual thing? It was just about being with the right person. I could have the best friend that I'd be with for the rest of my life, and he lived right next door to me or live with me for Pete's sake. Mm-hmm. But does that mean I'm gay? Because I love having him around all the time?
It would depend if you were attracted to him sexually.
Well, that's the point, though. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I think that there would be a way. I'm like, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know what actual gay people would think, but I know there's certain drives that a natural.
I'm glad you said
that. What would you say?
I don't know. I'm not trying.
What would you say? For straight people, they have drives. So I would see gay people would have the same sexual drives, but I would say it would be more of a misunderstood drive from what's going on to be contributed into what happens. You see what I'm saying?
Which would be.
Well, sex in general.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm like, I wouldn't know like how it goes because I'm not gay at the point. But all I would know is when you go into sex itself, there's a certain drive in the moment. Yeah. That's that attraction feeling growing and the lust coming in, and then you wanting to feel and doing whatever you got to do to get off in the moment.
Yes, he's a believer. His name's Jay.
I don't know the other guy's name, but
that's Amy.
Is he a believer?
She's great. I love Amy.
Oh, okay.
She's fucking awesome.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah,
I think it's secular soup. Anyway,
I'm like, you gotta understand. I'm like, I'm not trying to like make it out like to bash on him, hate on him. I don't believe any of that's right. I'm like, I'm not fully informed on what goes on, but I believe because the more informed you get, the more ambitious and evil you would get towards them, I guess.
Because the more I'm informed, the more I'm upset with y'all. No offense.
No, it would be in different perspectives, though. I'm like, you gotta understand, the church makes it out like there's some evil people that like try to eat your house.
Yeah, that's true.
Like what? Huh?
Not all churches.
Well, no, not
all
churches
churches
no more.
That's
But
like I just did a debate with a guy that is totally LGBTQ friendly, and he's an Episcopalian, which is for the most, it's basically Catholicism that's cool with gay people.
Yeah, okay.
Just saying.
I'm like, you can be cool with people, but hi Amy. But yeah, you can be cool with everyone. I'm like, shit, I'm cool with everyone. I try to be everyone would see me as technically normal. But once you know me and know what's actually going on, you see the difference on how everything is based off of what goes on around me. I went into these group of people that were just doing their own thing, and ever since I've been around, they haven't gotten into fights. There hasn't been problems going on. I'm like, everything's good in the hood. That's how everything is now. And
that's because of you?
I feel like it would be because of me. The minute I wouldn't say technically because of me, but more of the time period I came in.
Right.
I'm like, you got
it almost makes it seem like the Lucky Sox made them
almost because you got to understand. I've been around 3 people in my lifetime. My older brother Jake, which used to date my sister, and he had his own lifestyle where fights were constant. But the minute I ended up coming in, staying with my mother and stuff, that all stopped. And then after that, and I don't know why, he's like, man, I don't understand. The minute you come into the picture, I end up having no problems. Everything.
You said you don't know why, and that's where you should stop.
What do you mean stop?
Because now you're trying to make up.
Well, what do you mean?
You're trying to say that it happened because of your.
Well, no, I didn't know at that point in time. What pointed it out would be like 4 times the charm. When you go to 4 different sets of people that said they've done nothing but have problems with these certain people up until I came into their part of their lives, and then nothing ever happens for me to see.
And that could be the case. Obviously, if you're the voice of reason, you're going, hey, dude, look, talk to Joey here, okay? Because he needs, he's upset that you did this, and can we work this out? I'll be a moderator. Whatever. You know what I mean? Like that makes sense that you would be the cause. But
there's been a lot of people that have been into that. I'm like, I've talked to a lot of people that I've like helped with those certain conflicts and stuff like that. But it's not based off of because of me talking them through it. It's because they both know me and know who I am. And if I'm friends with someone, they know that person's not a bad person then. You see what I'm saying? So like this, because you know me, my boy lets you in his house, lets you go into his bathroom, go into any part of his house, even though it's a huge house, there's millions of dollar things, and not expect you to steal a thing because he trusts you just as much as he trusts me. That sort of feeling where you can literally get in his bed, you can get in his bed in your skivvies and fall asleep, and we'll come in and be like, you up, dude? What's up? What are you doing? And him not worry about it because he trusts you just like me type of thing. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so the actual problem would be people not trusting each other and thinking that each other's hoodlums until you come around and you're like, dude, no, this dude's cool, that dude's cool, and y'all can chill with like you acting.
Yeah,
like
but not even having to explain it, it just naturally be there. You don't understand? I would have parties and let's put it like this. I had a party one time. This kid stole this other dude's grandmother's van. All right. The minute I stepped in there when they were arguing, they said, it's all good, dude. We'll talk about it later. Even though they still had that problem, but they still had the respect.
You can't upset Jay, okay? We can't upset him.
They had the respect.
We can't have this conversation.
Could that good influence be just because of you, not because of it.
Let me read it.
Oh yeah.
Could that
like,
good? He's less dyslexic than I am.
What's that?
Could that good? I mean, he's more less dyslexic. My bad. See, I messed it. That's why I'm.
It's not good for the double dyslexic.
Could that good influence be just because you are, or you, and not because of a supernatural power?
Like maybe you're just a good dude, and therefore a good
That's
influence.
what I probably should have said.
Well, you got to put it like this at the same time. I came from living off grid, okay? Like, my whole story would be, like, I went from being part of more of the world, doing karate, going to public schooling, and stuff like that until I was of the age of,
like, you were homeschooled
8 and stuff. That's when I started being homeschooled at the age of 8. And then I was homeschooled all the way up until, like, 16 years old. But I ended up moving off grid and trying to, like, understand more of what God would teach you of. And the hardest way to learn it is when you're stuck in the influences of the world. So the best way is to strip yourself away to get the basic understanding of how to survive. Learn to hunt, learn to grow your own food, learn to build your own house. It's almost like a serenity in doing it in your own little place, you know. And then when you build your house, see how your house works by putting in your own wiring, your own plumbing, how to actually deck your house out to put into stairs. We built ours on the side of a mountain to where we had to build it on stilts, and then we also used water and put it into a hot water heater, and we would heat up logs to heat up our water. There's a serenity into learning these certain things while trying to figure out what God wants from you. And it's hard. I'm like, he's one of those people that you have to not be in the shadow of darkness constantly to be able to see, because the shadow of darkness will always cloud your vision and judgment.
And that's you doing, like, the things that you want to do.
Technically, yes.
You're being a lush. I'm a lush. I'm a lush. I drink a lot, and I eat a lot of food, even though you can't tell. But I do. But no, so those things would get in the way of being able to understand, because we were kind of basing this off of the premise of morality. Would that you think, like, those things would get in the way of you being able to be a moral agent in a society?
Yeah, because you got to understand this. From where I grew up there, I did not learn how to be distrustful. When I came here with trying to be as, like, the best person I could be. Like, I would never try to steal from someone, hurt from someone, try to make any sort of problems happen, always was polite. You have that serenity there, and it's the peace in mind of your own self, regardless of who that person is.
Do you think that ideology is necessary for those things to come to pass for each individual? That might not. So do you think your supernatural ideology, do you think that is necessary for you to come to those conclusions that I don't want to hurt anybody, I don't want to steal from anybody and things like that? Do you think that the supernatural claims of your religion are necessary for you to still do those things or not do
the hardest part is it's a yes and no answer, because you can live the right way and not believe, but the benefit of believing is where you go in the end.
Sure.
The whole thing is, if you live the right way and don't believe, you just probably you don't know. You just don't know. Therefore, I would believe Yahweh would look upon your heart. So that's what he says in judgment, is he would look upon your heart and what he deems worthy to go to heaven, which would be believing in him and what he says in the Torah to do for him to know that you are believing in him. If a person just naturally does that in their own way, it would be up to him. And it's not, I can't say, but you might even be accepted. Who knows? I'm like, you know what I'm saying? I can't naturally say, because I am already born to be flawed.
Right.
But because I know I'm born to be flawed, I question my own actions to where I don't want to jeopardize someone else's understanding.
Yeah, we actually, I'm sorry, like okay, that was great. But we have actually another debate starting in 3 minutes.
Jesus.
But thank you though, seriously, for coming by and doing this. I really appreciate it. I always enjoy our conversations.
Oh wait, what? Most of the world.
So he's saying, like, why do the people that don't believe what you believe, like, why aren't they like significantly worse?
Why don't the people that believe like me?
Yeah, like, wouldn't they be worse? Hold on, let me read it. Why aren't people that don't believe in your God, most of the world, significantly worse? We should be able to test this easily if your faith leads to higher ethics.
Okay, well, the only way to test it is, well, I guess you would have to literally separate yourself from everything you know and love to find those, to find what's actually there, because we're hidden in plain sight technically, because we're small people in a big world full of nothing but dirty and nasty things that happen. Then why believe in him at all? You can still be accepted in
exactly what
the point of that would say is the point of believing in him is to actually have the way there. I'm like, you can't really live the right way and make it, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying it as a fluke because I'm not supposed to know and tell someone whether they're accepted or not, and I can't say that. That would be going against what I just said for being moral, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm still incorrect and I'm still learning, but I'm trying to show a different level of thinking to help people help with their own existence.
But it tends to be more of the end game is what is the real concern, is heaven or hell, which, those of us, that are watching and whatnot, that we're not convinced is going to be the outcome.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence to support it. But
all right, guys.
we gotta go. I'm sorry. We have a debate. I have
Love you all.
Sean Yankee in a couple minutes, or in a minute. It's according to scheduling. And so thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
See you.